Welcome back to What's on My Mind. And I promised a continuation of the last commentary. Are we dying to belong? This is part 2. And I'm going to ask the question here and allow you to ponder upon it. How are we fighting against racial prejudice? Now, in his fight against injustice, the late Malcolm X urged Black Americans to protect themselves against white aggression by any means necessary. The late Martin Luther King Jr. advocated peace and resilience for the purpose of integration. The late Marcus Garvey emphasized unity among people of African descent worldwide, and he advocated separation. The late Stephen Biko of South Africa advocated for the empowerment of blacks. That fight against injustice then was our fight. Whether it was in the streets of Soweto, whether it was in New York or Harlem, this fight against racial prejudice, this fight against continued systemic racism is our fight, and our fight alone. Now, first to include any other peoples in our fight, believing that they are fighting alongside us because they care, is a misunderstanding. It's a joke. We should not become so sentimental with the idea that others who claim not to be racist are rallying with us. Nobody is asking you to hate them, but bear in mind that their involvement might stem not from love for you, but from the guilt that they are more privileged than us, and it is causing a problem for them. They want you to see them as allies, but just because they walk side by side with us and seem defiant of the tyranny against us by authority, does not necessarily mean they are in your corner. Now, I might be incorrect, but at this point in time, it doesn't hurt to hold everyone not of a suspect. Without a doubt, we are being dragged into participating in mass hysteria, not even having any clue or any strategy of how to fight that which we want to fight for. The style of the oppressor has always been to cause chaos, to infiltrate into our movements for change, and to distract us from our purpose. We get so caught up with crying no justice, no peace, that we cannot see the way forward, because now there are others other than ourselves marching along right beside us, purporting to be part of the resistance. Now, this is confusing. This is where we become quite confused and lose sight of the real reason why we are fighting. Suddenly the motivation for fighting changes. Now, we no longer want to be left alone. We want to be one with them. Perhaps all lives matter. But let me ask you, are you fighting against the prejudice of all lives? Or are you fighting against the prejudice against black lives, or for black lives? Read between the lines and find a message in the music. That's all I gotta say right now. Now, we have witnessed and we have experienced many murders of black men, women, and children. We continue to call for justice. We destroy things in the wake of our fury, which results in some of us being taken to jail, brutalized, or even killed. How many times has that same bait been fed to us and we swallow it, hook, line, and sinker. We use our sentiments to solve these highly charged situations, which are created for us. Meanwhile, with all the interferences that are deliberately set in our way, we fail to see that we are being made a mockery of. How many of us have ever stopped to wonder what is happening behind the scenes while we jump around in the streets shouting till kingdom come? Black lives matter, no justice, no peace. Oh, this sounds nice. Quite a harmony we create. But guess what? When they hear no justice, no peace, and we break up a few things and light a few fires, they treat us as if we are dissatisfied, upset children, and they start throwing candies at us. One of these candies is like, oh, let us quickly make a law. Some flim-flam law they put into motion, and then we accept it as some kind of truce, and we ease the pressure on them, and they no longer have to make a 360-degree turnaround because now we have compromised. Is the Breonna Law Taylor or the Botham Jean Law or the Tamir Rice Law or the Orlando Bloom Law or the Eric Garner Law enough to prove that racial discrimination will eventually end in America or anywhere else? They keep insulting our intelligence time and time again. And we sidestep and tango, waiting for the next bullet to rip through the heart of the backs of our people, or for the next sleeper hole that strangles our loved ones. Then we are at it again. Black Lives Matter. Are we waiting for the Letitia Harlins law to be passed, that they may not shoot our 15-year-old children in convenience stores and get away with it with 500 hours of probation? Why won't we take off the blinders for once? Why won't we stop handling this affair with emotions? Why is it so difficult for us to comprehend that we are hated? Yes, the reality of it is that we are hated and we will never be loved. What is all the chanting for when those who have wronged us in the past, those who have trampled on our human rights and continue to trample on our human rights and our humanity, know fully well that our lives matter? When they know very well that without justice, there will never be any peace. Is it that they're trying to engage us in open combat so that they could gun us down in numbers? Because the behavior of the civil rights era has not changed one iota. Not one iota. History is repeating itself. The thing is, we are beating our heads against a brick wall, asking for justice of those who have neither the capacity, nor the will, nor the intention to dispense justice. So many of our people have died and been imprisoned just to show us that way to freedom, just to enable us to recognize that the only avenue and the only avenue to attaining our freedom, our liberty, is through us, no one else. We have ignored these people. We have overlooked their wisdom and their warnings. Yes, we've heard them, but we never listened. We keep dishonoring them. We keep trampling on their memory. We forget their messages, their teachings, their experiences in a bid to satisfy our need to unite with the very system that continue to persecute us. We are dying to belong in a world and within a system that views us as insignificant. We keep forgetting. We've forgotten Oklahoma. We've forgotten Cairo, Mississippi. We've forgotten Mason County, Kentucky. We've forgotten Money, Mississippi. We've forgotten Tuskegee. We've forgotten the transatlantic slave trade. We've forgotten Marcus Garvey. We've forgotten Martin Luther King Jr. We've forgotten Malcolm X. We've forgotten Harriet Tubman. We've forgotten Stephen Biko. We've forgotten Sojourner Truth. We've forgotten Ya Asanteway. all those who fought, all those who had the courage to stand up, all those who have been destroyed and murdered, all those who are still being murdered and imprisoned for speaking out and taking a stance. We remain in the same position for time indefinite, hoping that policies will change and laws will be revised and rewritten in our favor. Our amnesia is so intense. We have forgotten because we hopelessly long for acceptance, equality, inclusion. We remain in the same predicament, which is tantamount to standing up in the anthill, brushing off the ants, but remaining in the anthill and getting stung by these ants. We keep bleeding from the bite of the serpent, putting on salve and band-aids on the wounds, and we remain steadfast in the Ophidian camp, hoping, praying that one day we will overcome. We shall overcome. That's what we sing. Overcome what? We are so deeply afflicted with Stockholm Syndrome. So deeply. We imagine that it will get better in the morning. Just because we are so desperately harboring that heartfelt desire to keep forging alliances with those who persecute us. So tell me, how are we fighting? How are we fighting? Do we have a plan? Although it might be a bitter pill for us to swallow, yes, it's very hard to swallow that pill. That pill is too bitter. The fact remains that we have not yet come up with a workable strategy or a tactic to overcome the problem. The question is not what we are fighting for, but how we are fighting. Enough of the marching and protesting. It is time for real action. Separate yourselves from them, sit down and think of a plan. The slaves never protested. They resisted the unfairness. And in resisting, they fled to freedom. They did not stay and hope. Neither did they settle for petty laws or candy sticks, because they knew that laws formulated by white supremacists or the white system would never favor them. They planned and they carried out their plans with confidence. They ran away and removed themselves from the situation. They did not cry, "Let my people go." They cried, "I'm out of here by any means necessary." Now do not ask me where to. Think. Think of a plan. Give it some serious thought. It might not seem far-fetched, but nature do not lie. You know what? Nature do not lie. You do not see the panther and the cobra in the same cohabitation. So why would you want to stay in the very same place with those who hate you, who put you through the ringer day in, day out, who kill your sons, who kill your daughters, who kill your moms and your dads, who stop you at stop lights or stop junctions or wherever they call it to search your car and shoot you in the back? Why would you want to stay among these people? Are you trying to find justification for what they are doing? How are you fighting this fight? It has been said that it is not what you do, but how you do it. Principle and compromise cannot be all right in the same sentence because there will be incongruity. We either want freedom or we don't. We either want racial discrimination to end for us, or we simply want to stay and pussyfoot around the issue until the last one of us is dead. How are we fighting? Because screaming into a bullhorn on the streets and breaking things, setting little fires, is not the solution. In his writing The Art of War, Sun Hu states, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as the night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt." We must choose. Will it be compromise or will it be principle? Are we going to make our plans be impregnable and impenetrable, or are we going to sit there and mope? Are we going to continue jumping up in the streets with placards and get pushed around, even if we are fighting or we are voicing our disapproval of the treatment that we are getting, the racial discrimination? Choose. How are we fighting? Thank you. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. Your comments are very important.